at nrgfoam.com for more information. NRG Spray Foam. Building green, living green.
This message was from a proud sponsor to KNLY 91.1 FM.
We are broadcasting live from the Woodlands, Texas to the world. You're listening to the only multimedia FM station in Houston, Texas. Your Fusion Radio. Top 40s, dance, Latin, country, pop, rock and roll. All in one station, mixing genres and generations. You're listening to KNLY New Waverly, Texas, 91.1 FM, The Boss.
The program presented are submitted by members of our community and are a proud sponsor of KNLY 91.1 FM. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect those of KNLY 91.1 FM and its affiliates.
Good morning, and God bless you. We are having a terrific Tuesday here at KNLY 91.1 The Boss, and I'm excited about today because all this past few weeks in engaging with my guest, Mr. John Meyer, I have learned quite a bit by just gleaning some of the information that he was able to share prior to coming on. So I want to introduce you to my guest today, Mr. John Meyer.
Hi. Hi, thanks for inviting me on, Orlando.
Thank you, sir, for joining us.
I'm glad to talk about my book and let everybody know about it.
Well, before you talk about the book, here's something I want to share because I've never interacted with a sci-fi author or anyone in regards to sci-fi, so I'm excited and intrigued. But I'm certain that our listeners would love to not only hear your journey of how you got to not only becoming an author an author and writer of sci-fi, but some of the things that you have done throughout your life, because I believe that there's a scripture that says old people know the way. You definitely have some wisdom and some experiences that I think people need to hear. So share a little bit about yourself and how you got to writing the book Time of Destruction. Well,
basically started out when I was 12 years old. I was in the 6th grade, and I really wasn't a reader, but then the school brought over library books from the library, and I came across a book called How Spacesuit Will Travel. In fact, I actually bought the book, the first book that I ever read, from the library, and this is it here. And years later, I had it signed by the author.
Wow!
Right on the title page.
Wow!
And but it really got me started. I started reading all of the science fiction that I could, especially from Ryder Heinlein, and he's written a lot of books. I've read everything that he's written, and over that time, I started getting interested in writing science fiction. I tried many times to do that, but never was really very successful. But I just kept reading and kept learning and kept reading about how to write, reading lots of books on how to write and talking to authors. And finally, about 12 years ago, I got a really good idea that I thought would make a good novel.
Okay.
And so what I did was I did a lot of research. I sat down and created some characters, created a basically the place that they lived in, which was in 2081, started out in 2081.
Wow.
So basically a destructive force strikes the Earth in 2085. But let me just tell you a little bit about the story. I wrote a little synopsis, so kind of a 1-minute synopsis to kind of tell everybody about it. Well, in the first chapter, Hydrotech, a worldwide energy company, introduces a device in 2081 that promises unlimited energy from a new source called the interdimension. And in that chapter ends with 2 time travelers trying unsuccessfully to avert a catastrophic sabotage of the device, ending in a major tragedy.
Okay.
Now, from that point on, it's a roller coaster ride through time and space beginning in 2085 with a huge destructive force striking the Earth, killing 5 billion people. Okay, now, as that is happening, 2 Hydrotech engineers are rescued from 2085 and taken to 2245 in the hope that they can save the ruined world 160 years after the destruction of 2085. Now, we follow these characters and others as they move back and forth in time and space on the Earth, the Moon, and on an artificial space colony trying to discover the cause of the catastrophe in 2085. so that they can use their time-traveling ability to go back and stop the destruction and save the 5 billion people who died in that time of destruction. So that's sort of a encapsulated view of the story. Now, it's getting a lot of really great reviews. It's had 50 reviews so far.
Okay.
30 of them are 5-star reviews, and 7 of them 4-star reviews, and then there's 13 3, 2, and 1-star reviews, which I don't really count. But
you know, when we consider anything that we do in life, one of the greatest challenges is being able to move beyond. We look at it as, you know, in this millennial or this stage of life,
right.
Reviews, but that's just opinions.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
That's just
Absolutely.
opinions.
Absolutely.
And there is a scripture that I love in Galatians 1. It talks about it's impossible to please God trying to please man, and you'll be surprised at the number of people that have yet to do what you've done, stepping out, moving in faith. That's true. You know, pursuing dreams and goals and ambitions and things of that nature. Here's something that I'm intrigued by. You have a book, and I'm still stuck on the fact that you still have the book from the 6th grade. That's the first
very
part.
book that I first
now,
read.
Mr. John, can I see that book for a moment? Because
can.
I thought about something,
You can.
and me being in school, they wouldn't let me, get my diploma or go to the next grade if you had a book out from the library now. So
what I did was I went ahead and paid for it.
Wow.
So I just kept the book and I paid for it. It was like $5 back in 1958.
Wow.
This is actually the book was written and published in 1958, and I was able to read it in that particular year. And I'd said, I want to keep this book. So
that's real history.
I've been cutting grass, and I made some money cutting grass. So I paid the library $5 and kept the book.
Okay.
But let me kind of tell you a little bit about how I came about writing the book. I worked for NASA for 2 years. Okay. I worked for the company that made the spacesuits. So that kind of got me intrigued. I was always interested in space anyway. And I bought I worked with the company that made the spacesuits called ILC, International Latex Corporation.
Okay.
And at that time, it was interesting is that the suits cost $185,000, and they were sewn by 180 ladies who worked at the parent company in Dover, Delaware. It was called ILC, International Latex Corporation, which actually later became, or not later, but which became Playtex. And it split off from International Latex in 1966 to make the spacesuits, and then they were sold. The Playtex Corporation was sold to Hanes Underwear. Now,
wait a minute. So Hanes Underwear has, I wear Hanes. I have quite a few, but the history of the suit that was made for NASA is tied to Hanes Underwear.
Hanes Underwear and Playtex, and
wow.
In 1970, which is when I started with International Latex, working at Johnson Spacecraft Center, the suits cost $185,000. But by the time the Skylab came around, which was a few years later, they sold for $6 million.
Wow. Now,
the same company is making them. ILC is still making them. It sells for $12 million. That's just kind of a little aside there. But along the way, I worked for NASA. I was with a company or with an organization called the L5 Society.
Okay.
You'll see a lot of that mentioned in my story.
Okay.
There'll be a lot of that mentioned in my story, and how that came about was. Do we have? We still have
you
time?
still got time.
Still got time.
Go right
Okay.
ahead.
Anyway, the way that came about was there was a gentleman named Gerald O'Neill who was talking to his big class at a university, and they were talking about what would be done. How could we go out into space? What would we do with space? And the class came up. We had 250 students in that class, and they came with an idea that we could build a large space colony, use material from the moon, because by that time we knew what the moon was made from, several different materials, and build solar power satellites. And so I'll talk a lot about that in my book too. The solar power satellites, this energy from the inner dimension, and also other ways to produce energy. In fact, there's one called MP3. The MP3 is found on the moon in large quantities, but you have to mine it, and basically you can fuse it with deuterium. Okay, that's one of the things we'll talk about too, and produce energy without instead of the dangerous neutrons that are produced from fusion and fission. Basically, it produces energy very naturally, very easily. So, I'll talk a lot about that.
Mr. Mark, I'm sitting here. I'm sorry, Mr. John. I'm sitting here, and I'm just in amazement, and I love being able to start off by saying, "Old people knowing the way." I mean, it's just history that you have a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge, in what you have actually been purposed and destined to do. Who would have thought? Falling in love with a book in the 6th grade that would lead you all the way to here, and now inspiring the next generation of people or sci-fi followers. And so I just commend you for just that alone. That you have you stayed consistent. There was some stick-to-itiveness, but I was able to post last night prior to you coming on and sharing that you were going to be my guest. And here's something that I want to make mention. Your daughter is just a jewel, because when I say she reached out to me, on your behalf, hey, my dad is an author, and when you have, not just the support of family and friends, but when people come into the vision or the dream that you have, been pregnant with for all this time, that now you've gotten it out, and we're desiring to see this book go further than where it's been. Here's something that I want to make mention, is that I put up some pictures of some of your memorabilia, things that you had signed from, that's just actually history. Can you talk about some of those memorabilia that you possess?
One of the things I met the Jim Level, who was the commander of Apollo 13, at a book signing. I had actually met him when I worked at NASA very briefly. And I was introduced to him, and didn't really get to talk with him that much, but I was introduced to him. And then years later, when he wrote a book about his journey on Apollo 13, I went to a book signing. He signed the book. He also signed material that is on the outer layer of the spacesuit, which I was able to get when I worked at NASA.
Wow. He
signed that as well. And also I met a few years later, in 1986, the discoverer of Pluto. His name was Clyde Tombaugh. And he basically, I got my picture taken with him. I got my picture taken with Jim Level, and a few other things as well. But basically, all of that inspired me to write a science fiction novel, and to get the information that I needed to write a good one. And people have really been enjoying it. In fact, I've got 50 reviews. 30 reviews are 5-star reviews. 7 reviews are 4-star reviews. So 94% of the reviews I'm getting on Amazon are excellent reviews. So it's a little bit higher than a 4-star. So on the average.
That's that's remarkable, especially when we consider not only the history but the knowledge you possess that has allowed your mind to pin something in relations to future things that could possibly happen.
Yeah.
And I love that. Can I see that?
Yeah,
the copy of the book.
Here it is, right.
Actually, I want to show you all this. I know you all have seen it go across the screen, but this is my copy. This is my copy that is going to be a signed copy, and I'm going to hold on to it just like you held on to the one from the 6th grade, because I'm truly inspired as well as admire.
Can I explain one thing?
Yes, go ahead.
If you put this on the screen here, you'll see that it's inside. It's the inside of the space colony that I talk about in my book. That people live there. 10,000 people live there, and they take material from the moon and they produce the solar power satellite. So when you read the novel, you'll see this on the first on the cover of the book when you read it, and you can be thinking about it as you go along. You'll see me talking about it. So.
Listen, you all follow not only my page, but KNLY 91.1, the boss, Orlando Daniels, Mr. John Meyer. Get you a copy. You all are going to see me pushing this book for quite a bit. I encourage you to do so, but I need Mr. Meyer to do me a favor, though he encourages me to call him John. I'm just very respectful. Mr. John, can you give them information, phone number, where they can get this book?
Well, basically, if you go to Amazon, go to your Amazon, put the name of the book, Time of Destruction, or you can put my name in it. Time of Destruction. It will bring you to a page where you can buy the book. I've had the price reduced to 99 cents so that more people can buy it and enjoy it. So I hope you do enjoy it, and if you do enjoy it, go back to the page, go scroll down, and write a review. I'd appreciate that very much. I've gotten 50 reviews so far, and I hope to get more, and I hope you enjoy the book as much as I enjoyed writing it. Hope you enjoy reading it as much as I enjoyed writing it.
Well, listen, here's what I want you all to do for me. For those who are supporters of KNLY 91.1 The Boss, if you're in BizConnect, NIA, if you follow me on any social media sites, I need you all to do me a favor. I need you to put 99 cents to the side. And I need you to purchase this book and support Mr. John Meyer. I love his heart. I love his spirit. And most importantly, I love his work ethics. I love his due diligence and his consistency to obtain goals. So I encourage you all to do that for me. Once again, I am your host, Orlando Daniels, of Today's Entrepreneur. It is Tuesday. I want you all to make it a great week. We bless God for Mr. Ivan, who is putting in work as our tech. And once again, my guest, my wonderful new friend, Mr. John Meyer. You all be blessed. Enjoy the remaining part of your day. Make it a great week. There's a lot going on this week, so stay connected and keep following KNLY 91.1 The Boss. Orlando Daniels signing off. You all be blessed.